Do you want to know the math for making $100,000 each year with your books? Well, that's what this video is going to answer. And there are a bunch of ways to approach this. The easiest way you can really do this is figuring out how much money you make for each book sale, and then using that number to help you figure out how many of those sales you need to make to hit 100,000. So just to give you an idea on that, for Kindle books priced $2.99, if you do KDP Select, you make around $2 per sale. That's your net, and you would have to sell around 50,000 of those copies to hit 100,000. Now, there are a few factors that can make the math a little easier, so you have to sell fewer units to achieve your goal of making six figures with your book. The first thing is, instead of focusing on Kindle, which is what a lot of self-published authors do, focus on the paperbacks, because for a lot of authors, paperback is going to give you a higher margin than the Kindle book. So for a paperback, I'll make around $4 for each sale as compared to $2 that I get from a Kindle book sale. Now, paperback, they are priced a little higher, so obviously you may not get as many sales, but if you promote the paperback and you are able to get enough sales to the point where a counter is just making $2 per sale, it's something worth doing. Now, the price of a paperback, it depends on a few things. It depends on how many pages, the price to produce it. It depends on how many pages your book is. It depends on how many pictures you include in your book, because all those things factor in, because all those things are extra ink. So knowing those numbers, and KDP, they actually let you know how much it'll cost to produce a unit. And then when you plug in your price, like a lot of my paperbacks are $9.99, they let me know how much money I'm making with that book per sale. Then you put that number underneath 100,000, you divide, and then you figure out how many book sales you need. So this is the basic way of figuring out, how many book sales you need to hit your goal. But since we want to maximize, we want to make the money faster, there are other routes to consider that a lot of people don't think of. The first thing is selling within your book. Now, none of the books I write are like sales pages 100% through, but I will mention that I'm a coach in the book. At the end of the book, I'll invite people to schedule a free strategy call with me. So I am promoting some of my products and services within the book that could be anywhere from a few $100s each month, which is around my coaching, to like a $1,000 training course. So now if you say that 1% of the readers who buy my book will end up buying this, let's say, $100 product, then you're saying that each reader is worth an extra dollar. So you're basically saying, if these numbers are true and you give yourself these assumptions, you're saying that instead of, you make $2 on the Kindle book, so we're going to just use Kindle book for this example, but you have to add in that extra dollar because you're assuming that 1% of the people who read your book will buy your $100 product. So now all of a sudden it's fewer books you have to sell. Instead of 50,000 books you have to sell, it's around 33,000 books you have to sell instead, assuming those numbers work out. Now, what if, though, you offer like a $5,000 service at the end of your book, where it's like a done for you, it's like a complete guiding the other person through a process. So let's say, for instance, you write a book about podcasting, and at the end of your book, you say something like, I don't do this in my book, but you say something like, I will help you launch your podcast. I will help you, like, all the done for you. I will do episodes for you for like a few months. I will give you like a gajillion coach, whatever you want to package in there, which basically says I will like literally handhold you through this whole process, do all the work for you for like $5,000. Now, I do that differently. I gear more towards the coaching, and if you want it done for you, we talk about that. But the idea is, if you offered then a $5,000 service, and let's say, again, only 1% of the readers buy into that, now we're talking about a higher potential value per reader, where you have to sell a lot less copies in order to hit your goal. The only issue with this approach is that this is assumptions. So you are assuming 1%. If you hit 1%, you're great. If you hit less than that, that's going to affect how many copies you need to sell. If you hit more than 1%, if 2% of the people convert, then that's going to be really good for you and help you hit your 6 figures sooner. I like to do the coaching because coaching is a monthly service. So it's one of those things where, like with the books, the thing is you have to sell. With the Kindle example, we're going to keep going back to that because paperback gets a little more variant on how much money you get per sale. But for Kindle, you can expect to sell around 50,000 units each year. While with coaching, if you do, let's say, $500 a month for weekly calls, which is something that I do at that price point right now anyway, then you would only have to get around like 16 people to be hitting that 8,000 per month threshold. And then you don't even have to sell books anymore. You just have those people who you got from the book to be your client. And now you're making all this revenue from your books. So that's one of the things I want to emphasize here. Don't think of book revenue as just the book sales. Think of the book as the beginning of a buyer journey and taking the reader through the process. And there is something that people do called free plus shipping, where they even lead you through this whole landing page, this whole funnel to get you to buy their book for like a discount. And then that leads into these like higher end training courses. That's something I could do the math on for another video. But think about what product or service you can offer at the end of your book and how you can talk about that product and service throughout your book in such a way where it's not salesy, but it gets the job done. So for instance, being able to share like a client success story, that's going to be really helpful. If you have some kind of success story at the end of each chapter, people have different ways of doing it, but if you're able to mention anything like that about your services, it's going to help you with making the $100,000 from your book sooner. The other thing to factor in is that you can only promote your book so often before it annoys people. When I come out with a new book, it's a really exciting time. People are ready to buy. But if I talk about this book every single day and I sell it every single day, then people are going to get annoyed about that. They're going to want some free stuff. They're going to want the different thing that's being presented to them. So you can't be selling like your same book every single day. You got to mix it up a little bit. Now, that doesn't necessarily help with the whole sell all these units to make 6 figures, but that's where Amazon ads come in. And this is where, when it comes to the math, I'm making $100,000 each year. Earlier, I talked about margin. I said when you sell a paperback, you make more money per sale than with a Kindle book in most cases. So that's why when you run Amazon ads, you want to keep that margin in mind, because if you have to spend $5 to make a sale and you're only making $2 per sale, it's not going to be that long before you're swimming in debt if you keep running that ad anyway, because you could run the ad, see it's not profitable, and just deactivate it. But if you don't deactivate it and the money keeps being spent, that's where the problems happen. So a quick thing about Amazon ads, they don't spend your money usually. You have to, like, if you set a budget of like $50 a day, you're really lucky if they spend $2. So just an idea about Amazon ads for anyone who isn't familiar with it. But when it comes to Amazon ads and this whole, how many book sales do you need to hit $100,000 each year, you're going to lose some margin on the book sales by running Amazon ads, but you're going to get sales that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So that's where, if you monitor your Amazon ads, you will be able to see which ads are most profitable, which keywords are most profitable, and then start really focusing on your big winners and cut out the ones that are not doing as well. So that's pretty much the math on making $100,000 from your books. There are a lot more variables in this one. I did the dividend math one. We're making like $100,000 each year, where there are a little less variables and you have a better idea of how many sales you need to make. But with this one, you really have to think about what are you going to sell on the back end, because that back end is really going to be how you make a lot of your money, even like getting speaking gigs from your book, opportunity, things like that. So what is going to be that action? And what also are you going to do to market your book? Are you going to use the Amazon ads where you have to be aware of spending now? So if you do sell those 50,000 Kindle units and you do make the $100,000, are you spending $100,000 to get there? So that is something to think about as well. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Basically, this is more of a think about all the different variables and how you can make money with your book instead of just viewing it as selling books. There's just so much more you could do with a book, even like making an audio book as well. But anyway, once again, hope you enjoyed this video, and we will be back with another video next time. Until then, dream big, achieve greatness, unlock your potential today.